The vacation is $1,000 each, my son said. If you can't afford it, stay behind. I nodded, then got the alert, 4 luxury bookings, charged to my card. His wife's name. I hit dispute, and waited. The notification came in just after I'd finished wiping down the counters and unplugging the coffee maker. It was from the family group chat, Summer Getaway 2026. My son Brandon had posted a sleek photo of some resort in Scottsdale, all infinity pools and desert sunset views, followed by a single line that made my stomach drop. It's $900 per person. If you can't swing it, no hard feelings, just sit this one out. No hey, Mom. No phone call asking if I wanted to come. Just a price tag and a polite dismissal, like I was some distant relative they were obligated to invite but hoped would decline. I stared at that message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, then I closed the app. Didn't respond. Didn't argue. Just stood there in my quiet kitchen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Brandon knew my situation. After the divorce and Dad's medical bills, I'd been living on what the settlement provided, careful, calculated, every dollar accounted for. He knew I wouldn't ask him for money. He also knew I wouldn't make a scene. That was the thing about being the peacekeeper all these years. People start to assume your silence means agreement. Later that evening, I was folding towels in the living room when my phone buzzed again. This time it was a fraud alert from my bank. Unusual activity detected on your account. For charges totaling $4,216. Review immediately. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. I opened the banking app with shaking hands. 4 pending transactions. 4 luxury resort bookings. And sitting right there in my email inbox were the confirmation receipts, all under one name, Becca W., my daughter-in-law. I didn't remember giving them my card information. But when I clicked through the emails, each one had already been opened and marked as read. Someone had been in my account. Maybe recently. Maybe for longer than I wanted to believe. I locked the card immediately, changed all my passwords, and sat there staring at my phone screen. No warning. No apology. Just a quiet theft dressed up as family planning. I used to think keeping the peace meant staying quiet. Now I wasn't sure which had cost me more over the years, my money, or my silence. Morning light hadn't even reached the living room when another notification pinged. A shared folder this time, Scottsdale Trip 2026, Family Plans. Inside were color-coded spreadsheets labeled Daily Itinerary, Restaurant Reservations, Spa Packages, and one simply titled Budget Breakdown. I opened the spreadsheet with a growing sense of dread. There in neat little columns were everyone's names, their room assignments, and payment statuses. Next to mine, confirmed, paid via Morgan's Visa. They hadn't asked. They just decided. Inserted me into their vacation like I'd already said yes to all of it. I called Brandon before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the 3rd ring, and I could hear Becca laughing in the background. Hey, Mom, he said, casual as anything. Did you check out the folder? Pretty organized, right? I saw it, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Why does it say I've already paid? Oh, that. He didn't even pause. We had to lock in the reservations before they filled up. It's Memorial Day weekend, everything books fast. Don't worry, it'll be great. We all need this, you know? Family time. Brandon, I didn't authorize those charges. He sighed like I was being difficult. Mom, we're family. It's easier to just book everything at once. Besides, you love Scottsdale. Then Becca's voice chimed in from somewhere behind him, bright and unbothered. Don't stress, Morgan. We'll totally pay you back once Brandon's bonus comes through. Promise. I didn't say anything. Because that was the same thing they'd said about the roof repair. The one I'd covered for them last summer when Becca said the insurance check was delayed. That was 14 months ago. The check never came. After I hung up, I didn't delete the folder. Instead, I printed every page, the spreadsheet, the reservations, the casual assumption that my money was theirs to spend. Then I went to my bedroom closet and pulled out the accordion file I kept tucked behind my winter boots. The one I hadn't touched in over a year. I slid the papers inside a new section I labeled, Breaking Point. That afternoon, I did something I'd been avoiding. I logged into my bank account and started pulling up old statements. Transaction by transaction. Month by month. And what I found made my hands go numb. By the time I'd scrolled through 6 months of statements, I'd filled 3 pages of my notebook with highlighted charges. A streaming service I'd never signed up for, $14.99 a month. A sushi place in Austin where I'd never been, $87.43. A monthly membership to some boutique gym Becca always posted about, $129 every month for the past 8 months. Small amounts. Always spaced out just enough that I'd miss them in the blur of groceries, utilities, and prescriptions. I'd trusted them. That was the problem. I'd trusted them so completely that I'd stopped checking. By midnight, I had a list, 17 unauthorized transactions spanning almost a year. Nearly $2,000, not counting the resort charges still pending. I took screenshots of everything, printed the receipts, circled the dates in red pen until the pages looked like evidence. The next morning, I drove to the police station in Round Rock. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my chest felt tight. The officer at the front desk listened without interrupting, then handed me a form and a case number. "You're doing the right thing," he said quietly. I didn't feel right. I felt like I was tearing something apart that could never be put back together. When I got home, I expected silence. Instead, my phone was exploding. Text messages. Missed calls. Voicemails piling up. I opened one message from Brandon. "Mom, what the hell? The bank called Becca. You filed a police report?" I didn't respond. I scrolled further and saw that Becca had posted on Instagram a photo of her sitting on their back porch, looking devastated. The caption read, "When the people you trust most turn on you for no reason. Family shouldn't feel like this. Broken heart." The comments were filled with sympathy. Friends telling her to stay strong. Someone even wrote, "Family can hurt you the worst. I'm so sorry, babe." I closed the app, muted the group chat, turned my phone face down on the counter. Outside, the neighbor's wind chimes rattled against the afternoon breeze. For once, I didn't try to fix anything. I just let the noise be what it was. Act 4, the confrontation. Saturday morning, I pulled back the curtains with my coffee in hand and nearly dropped the mug. Brandon's truck was parked in my driveway. He was leaning against the hood, arms crossed, wearing that expression I knew too well, the one that was half frustration, half disappointment. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. He didn't knock. Just waited. Like I owed him the first word. I opened the door, and he straightened up, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, Mom. You weren't picking up your phone." I didn't have anything to say, I replied. He let out a sharp breath. "You're really blowing this out of proportion. It's a vacation. You filed a police report over some hotel rooms like we're criminals. You used my card without permission, Brandon. Multiple times. We're family." He said it like that explained everything. Like the word itself was a get-out-of-jail-free card. I looked at him carefully. This man I'd raised, who used to ask me for help with his math homework, who'd cried in my arms when his high school girlfriend dumped him. When had he learned to look at me like this, like I was the obstacle instead of his mother? "Family doesn't mean free access to my bank account," I said quietly. He shook his head. "You've always been weird about money, Mom. Dad used to say the same thing. You care more about dollars than people." The words hit like a slap. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened my voicemails, and found the one I'd saved from 3 weeks ago. I pressed play. Becca's voice filled the space between us, sweet at first. "Hey, Morgan, it's me. So I'm trying to book this spa package for my birthday, but my card's maxed out from the dental work. Can I borrow yours real quick? Just to hold the reservation. I'll cancel it and use mine once it clears. You're the best." The message ended. Brandon's face went pale. The casual charm he'd walked up with crumbled, replaced by something younger, smaller. "Caught. You didn't have to." He started. "I did," I said. "Someone had to." He turned and walked down the driveway without another word. Didn't look back. Didn't apologize. Just got in his truck and left. When I closed the door, the silence felt heavier than before, but cleaner. That evening, I drove to see my niece, Kylie. She lived in a small apartment in South Austin, and when she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me. Hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, wearing an old college sweatshirt. "Aunt Morgan." She stepped aside, letting me in. Her place smelled like lavender and fresh laundry. We sat at her tiny kitchen table with mugs of chamomile tea between us. "I thought you didn't talk to anyone in the family anymore," I said gently. She shrugged, staring into her mug. "Didn't seem worth it." I waited. Let the quiet stretch. After a few minutes, she spoke. "They did it to me too, you know. Brandon and Becca." Her voice was soft but steady. "They asked to use my credit card to rent a car for their anniversary trip to New Orleans. Said their cards weren't working with the rental company system. I was 24. Didn't know any better." My chest tightened. What happened? Tolls. Parking tickets. Late fees. By the time I found out, it was over $1,000. They never paid me back. Said they forgot. Then they stopped inviting me to things. Like I was the problem. She looked up at me, and her eyes were sharper than I remembered. I thought it was just me. That I'd been stupid. That I deserved it somehow. "You didn't," I said firmly. She told me more. About our cousin Greg, who'd loaned Brandon his credit card for one emergency and got it back maxed out. About Aunt Diane, who'd covered part of their tax bill after Becca claimed it was a payroll mistake. None of them had been repaid. None of them had said anything. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger or hurt. I felt clarity. This wasn't about one resort booking or one forgotten promise. It was a system. One they'd practiced, refined, and wrapped in family language until it looked like love. And I'd just become the first person to say no without apologizing for it. I stayed until the sun dipped low behind the buildings, then hugged Kylie at the door. It wasn't long. Just enough. Back home, I opened my file and wrote across a fresh page, "Pattern of behavior. Known victims." My sister Laurie offered her house for what she called a family meeting. "Neutral ground," she said. Though I doubted anything about this could be neutral anymore. I arrived early, set a manila folder on the dining table, and waited. They came in slowly: Brandon, Becca, a few aunts and uncles, some cousins. Becca wore oversized sunglasses indoors even though it was past 7 p.m. We all knew why. When everyone settled, Laurie tried to ease the tension. "Let's just talk this through calmly." Becca didn't wait. "We never meant to hurt anyone," she said, voice trembling. "This whole thing is such a misunderstanding. Morgan never said we couldn't use the card. We just assumed." She looked around for support. Brandon stayed silent, staring at the table. I reached into my bag, pulled out a stack of papers, and started passing them around. Each person got the same packet: bank statements with highlighted charges, printed emails, the voicemail transcript, a list of recurring transactions with dates and amounts. Names attached. Nobody spoke. The only sound was pages rustling. "I'm not here to fight," I said once everyone had the documents. "I'm here to stop this." No one asked what this meant. They knew. Laurie looked stricken. My cousin Amy shifted uncomfortably, flipping through the pages like they were legal documents. They weren't. But they could be. Becca whispered something to Brandon, but he didn't look up. Didn't defend her. Just sat there, pale and silent. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't cry. Didn't explain myself. I just stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked to the door. Nobody followed. Nobody tried to stop me. I didn't slam the door. I didn't offer closure. I just left, like someone who'd finally reached the edge and decided to step past it. Brandon's email arrived before sunrise 3 days later. Subject line: "You didn't have to do this." 3 pages long. Words like selfish and cold scattered between paragraphs about family loyalty and how disappointed Dad would have been. At the end, he wrote that I'd humiliated him, turned everyone against them, and that money had made me cruel. I read it twice. Then I archived it. By the end of the week, the fallout was complete. 2 cousins stopped answering my calls. Aunt Diane blocked me on Facebook. Another relative sent a text: "I'm sorry for how they treated you, but I can't get involved." A few people reached out privately. Quiet apologies sent late at night. I knew something was off for years. I just didn't want to believe it. Their words didn't make me angry. They just felt late. At my next therapy appointment, Dr. Phillips listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said something that landed like truth: People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call it betrayal when you finally draw them. That afternoon, I opened a new bank account at a completely different institution. Updated my will with one added sentence: no shared financial responsibility shall be assumed unless documented in writing and signed by all parties. The notary didn't ask questions. Just stamped the paper and gave me a small, knowing smile. At home, I spent the evening deleting contacts, organizing files, labeling envelopes. When the house went dark, I realized I could breathe without waiting for the next demand to arrive. A few weeks later, Kylie texted, "Hey, Aunt Morgan. Want to do a weekend trip to Fredericksburg? Just us. My treat. I already booked everything. Receipts are in your email. No surprises. Thought you might like the hill country." The message was short, clear, respectful. I opened the attachment, neat PDFs, full transparency, no assumptions. I said yes. That Saturday, I packed a small bag and drove out with the windows down, country music on low. No one called asking where I was going. No one demanded anything. Somewhere past the rolling hills with bluebonnets lining the highway and sunlight warming my face, I realized how quiet my mind had become. They'd wanted my silence, but I chose to speak. They'd wanted my money, but I chose myself. They'd expected the same Morgan, the one who said yes to keep everyone comfortable, the one who stayed at the table even when she wasn't being fed. But that Morgan was gone. Now there was only space, choice, and enough distance to finally see the pattern for what it was. Back home, I unpacked slowly. The trip had left me calm in a way I couldn't quite name, like I'd traveled farther than the miles on the odometer suggested. I took a small notepad from my kitchen drawer and wrote 7 words in firm, steady script. My boundaries are not up for discussion. I pinned the note inside my front door, just above the handle, where I'd see it every time I left and every time I came home. That evening, I went to my financial wellness support group, something I'd joined months ago but never really participated in. This time, when the conversation turned to the cost of always saying yes, I cleared my throat. I thought I was protecting my family, I said, hands folded in my lap. Every time I said yes, I thought I was keeping things together. That if I just covered the gap one more time, they'd feel secure, and I'd still matter. Someone across the circle nodded slowly. But I wasn't protecting anything, I continued. I was just delaying the damage. Pushing it down the line like interest on a debt no one planned to pay back. No one interrupted. No one minimized it. They just listened. When I got home, I washed the dinner dishes, folded the throw blanket, dimmed the lights. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I turned off my phone completely. No alerts. No unauthorized charges. No emergency texts asking me to fix something I didn't break. Just stillness. I sat in that quiet, feeling the evening breeze through the window, the cool floor under my bare feet, the walls exactly where I'd left them. I'd been so afraid of not being needed. But this felt different. Not needed. Not used. Just free.